And welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. Wanted to share something I got as a gift that is gaming related, and it's pretty cool. A lot of people have seen these. This one might be a bit of a surprise though. This is obviously the iCade, but this one is the iCade Junior. It's actually a little one. Really like this. I got this as a gift, as I say, and it looks cool. It actually plays really great. Wanted to do a video. Also, I discovered a few things about the iCade Junior nobody else has mentioned, so thought I'd bring them up. I'm currently showing a Space Invaders themed clock on here, which kind of looks nice and serves a nice little purpose of looking like an arcade cabinet and also just being a clock. I might even use this like this when I'm not playing on the iCade Junior. Now, every minute it goes off as just like that. But unfortunately, it's also ad supported, so I've had this piece of paper to cover that up. But anyway, no, this is a very cool little device, this iCade Junior. I saw the original actual iCade for the iPad, and then this was advertised not long later, and probably took a couple of years to get released. And I was very upset because I just thought, well, I don't have an iPad, but that would totally work for my iPod Touch. And then it finally came out. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't actually work with this generation of iPod Touch that I have. But I wanted to show it off, and there's a couple things about this iPod Touch and my standard iPod Touch, the one that I use most of the time. But nobody discusses this when it comes to the old iCade Junior, and I thought, well, I better just describe my findings, because it might be useful for folks. So first of all, the thing that's awesome about the iCade is you just put your iPhone, iPod, etc. in there, and it looks like an arcade cabinet. But it doesn't actually fit. It's supposed to go in the top here, this lid, but I really had to work to get my iPod in there. Now let's take off the clock here, because that's been a bit. This is an old second generation iPod Touch, and really enjoyed it. And it's got a little protective coat, and it's not much, or a protective case. It's not very big. It doesn't add much to the size of the thing, but I tell you, you can't slide it in as the instructions show. You're supposed to be able to just slide it in there, and it doesn't. It kind of goes in at a weird angle. Good news though, you can make it work. You just place it down like that, and then sort of wedge it back in there and flip the top. And now you've got your iPod working properly, if it's the old style. If it's the new style, this is a bit of a problem, and I was a bit worried when I first bought this thing. This didn't fit. I have a case, a rubberized case for my iPod Touch 6th generation. I think it's the 6th. It's the latest. And it's a great little case. It does not want to go down there. Now, it does work. If I give it a gentle coaxing, it will slide into place. But it takes a little careful, and the other problem is it only goes down so far and then it stops. And that lid is just that's not gonna go. So that's okay though. For playing purposes, I'll do it this way, and then I can stick the old one in if I just want to show, use it as a clock or anything else. Now the second thing that I found quite surprising with the iPod Touch when I finally got it in there, or actually with the iCade itself, I looked at the instructions, and these are very good. It shows all different types of games you can get. Even shows that if you have the older type iPod you can use, it's got a little cable in there which can charge the iPod, because obviously in order for this thing to be powered, it takes batteries. There's actually a little battery compartment right down there. So you can give your pod a little bit of charge, or iPhone, providing it's this old connector. Now these new iPods use that, what's it called, the Dragon connector, whatever it is, lightning connector. There we go. It doesn't work here. The iCade Junior does not work with the lightning connector, so that's worth noting. Good news is you can also do it landscape, which I'll do later on. So yeah, I thought there might be a switch down there, and there isn't. I don't know how to turn this thing on, so I consulted the instructions. And the instructions very clearly say right here, here's your joystick, here's your buttons for pressing for action. Letter A is power. Turns iCade on and off. This blinks when in pairing mode. Okay, great. So I'll hit the power button. And I kept pushing this thing and it just never seemed to want to turn on. Now I got this secondhand off eBay and I was scared that the previous owner might have actually wedged or jammed that in there because this has no movement in it whatsoever. And I thought, oh no, this thing isn't working. But it turns out those instructions are a little bit incorrect. It's not actually a button. This is just a light that indicates when it's on and when it's not. But even with the batteries constantly in there, this power button doesn't turn on or off on its own. What you need to actually do is pair the device, and I've already done that, but brief little tutorial. There's 4 buttons here. You hold those down, and you have your device, your iPod, your iPhone, in pairing mode. And with those pressed in, you then get a blinking light, and you are paired. Once that has happened, to turn it on, you just push any of these buttons until the light comes on. Now it's turned on. So that's how you turn the iCade on. I didn't realize that. How do you turn it off? Because you can't push these buttons a whole bunch to turn it off, and that's not an on-off switch. Turns out all you do is you just leave it for a little while. I won't do that now, but I think it takes 2-3 minutes of inactivity. It'll turn off. Apparently the iCade larger version, the iCade Big Brother, that's the way it works, and that's how we found out for this. So anybody who's got an iCade Junior trying to figure out how do you turn this thing on, you just press some buttons until that light turns on. That is not a switch, despite what the instructions say. And if you ever want to turn it off, just wait, and eventually it turns off. So that's that. Now I'm going to show you a few games, and I'm also going to show you this controller actually is really, really good in not the way that you would think. I thought it was just a cute arcade style thing, but I thought there you go, it's turned off. I thought it was very, very cute, but I didn't think it was actually going to be all that practical because it doesn't look comfortable. Like this looks a little janky and unresponsive. But I'm gonna reposition in a few minutes and show you this is actually very good as a controller as well. But first, let's turn it back on. One of these, there we go, and let's try out some of the games. So this must be the killer app for a controller like this, a joystick. Pac-Man. I mean, no other game says you got to play it like Pac-Man. So let's just start a brand new game here, and we will show you how this plays. Very responsive, works really well. I mean, this in and of itself, this is the way to play Pac-Man on a console like this. Oh, you got me. Yeah, Pac-Man is a game you have to play with a joystick. I'm sorry, I don't care how good the touch screen controls are, and some of them have come up with some pretty decent ones. I recommend the Pac-Man Championship Edition on iOS, actually. They really came up with a nice solution, but I gotta use a joystick. I'm sorry. I've always felt this is one game that proves what you need to use a joystick for. So Pac-Man, absolutely a must-play. And if you like Pac-Man, you're going to love Forget-Me-Not. This game is a little bit Pac-Man, a little bit Centipede, a few other types of games. I'll start playing it and show you what I mean. Game sounds awesome too. I'm that little square, and as I move, I shoot in front of me, you see. And these little bad guys come along, and I want to get all the squares I can. Isn't that awesome? But I do want to make sure I get that key and go out the door. Great little game this. Really recommend Forget-Me-Not. Now here's an awesome modern game. This is Danmaku Unlimited 2. It's a bullet hell shooter. shoot 'em up. Really, really fun, this one, and looks amazing. The style of the game, I'm going to go easy because I'm not very good at this, but this game looks incredible. It's got really smooth frame rate, and on this sort of layout with this controller, the fact that it's a tall game, it looks like you're playing a little arcade game. It's fantastic. I really, really like this one. Now, the buttons don't do a heck of a lot in this game. The game is one of those you slide with your finger normally, so there aren't too many things to do with the controller as far as the buttons go. Obviously, left, right, up, and down is working, but what buttons do you use? Well, there is one button here that does something. I mean, you can pause not firing. I don't know if that's beneficial in the game. I haven't played it enough to know that. But you can also, with this button here, you can unleash this beam mode, which is handy against some of the bigger bosses. Really, really cool looking game. Awesome stuff. Now, you must be wondering, well, okay, what if you want to use the buttons a lot? Is this game, or is this controller actually useful and handy for that? It is, not necessarily in the configuration I'm playing it right now. And I'm going to switch now to showing you a way that I like using this controller as an actual Bluetooth controller for my iPod Touch. Not just as a silly little gimmick that looks like an arcade machine, but as a genuine controller here. So one control scheme that a lot of people never mention when they talk about the iCade Junior is the back buttons here. These 4 buttons are actually very, very useful for a lot of games. And, I mean, you can press them and you can still use the joystick while you're playing and not bother using these buttons at all. I kind of rest my knuckles here and steer with the joystick, and then I use these buttons in the game. And that actually is a very good control scheme. It works really, really well. Just as good as any kind of other handheld control for this for iOS devices. So it's something I've never seen anybody talk about. I highly recommend you do it. You just sort of rest the iCade within your grip this way and use these buttons. If you're only playing a 1 or 2 button game, use these 2 in Donkey Kong, etc., or Asteroids, and it really, really works. So I highly recommend you try this control scheme out with the iCade Junior. Here's another modern game on the iPod Touch. This is Temple Run, the first Temple Run. The second one doesn't use the iCade, but the Temple Run #1 does, and I'll show you. It's actually a lot of fun this way, too. So up we'll jump. And you can do the side to side, obviously. And pulling down or toward you will slide. Very, very good game. And great on the iPod Touch. I know there's actually a genuine arcade port of Temple Run, so this is a way to do it at home. Here's an awesome game from Lamasoft. They do a lot of retro remake style games, or demakes. This one looks and sounds like an arcade game of yesteryear. This is Grid Runner. There's actually the light version. You can buy the full-on one there. I just didn't get a chance to get the full version just yet. I recommend it, though. It's really, really good. So let's give this a try. So there I am. I am that ship shooting the centipede-ish type fellas there, picking up the power-ups. And avoiding the fellas that are trying to destroy me on the top and bottom of the screen. Picking up the power-ups. It looks like a game from the 80s that would have been around back then, and it plays great. Has a lot of sound effects I'm sure a lot of us recognize. Works really well with the iCade Junior. Also from Lamasoft, this game is Goat Up. And this one's really, really good. I actually find it works better with this controller than trying to do it with the touch controls. Essentially, you're just going up all the time, and you're picking up little power-ups as you go. And the thing is, you also want to eat this grass, and meet the lady goat there. Although I think he had horns, so maybe I'm the lady goat? Anyway, Doesn't matter. But you can see how you're actually supposed to be eating this grass as you go and picking up these power-ups. And that's harder to do with the touch control than it is to do it with the iCade Junior. Good little game. I like that. Goat up. And here is probably the killer app for the iCade. That is MAME for All. I know this isn't available on iTunes anymore. It was for a very brief time, so I snagged it as soon as I could. There are ways around it. It's a legally gray area. I'm not going to go into discussion about that. But as far as being able to play arcade machines on this controller, this is the way to go, is MAME for All. Now, interestingly, if you have this program, if you were lucky enough to get it, you have to actually configure it to recognize, even though this is on, it doesn't see it yet. You have to go in, and let's try and launch a game that's, oh, I don't know, let's go with Donkey Kong Jr. If we start the game, only when we're in the game and going to the options here, will it actually see that there's an iCade turned on and say OK, and then it will say, you have an iCade, do you want to allow this? Some games don't accept it. Then you go to iCade, now you're using the iCade controller. So let's start a game here. So I really like Donkey Kong Jr. It's there's going to be a video about it in the future. I find it refreshing that Mario is actually the bad guy in this game. Now, I probably could remap the controls a little bit, but I'm not going to just because it's this video is getting long enough already. But as that other video I showed you, I'm actually using this back button here for the jump button. So let me just proceed, because I really like that way. That control scheme is actually a lot better for using this controller. I like the way it's done. Oh, get out of the way. As you can see, like, this is a full-on way to play Donkey Kong Jr. I'm very impressed. And definitely the way to go. I mean, let's see if I can finish this level here. There we go. Oh, that evil Mario. He's taken off with Donkey Kong's dad. So just a couple more games to go. I thought I'd play a couple of games in widescreen or landscape mode to show that, yes, you can put your phone or iPod on its side and it's perfectly secure in there. There's a couple of hooks that hold your device on its side very nicely. So I thought I'd show that off. A couple of really good games here. This one is Super Crossfire, and it's kind of a 3D-ified Space Invaders. I really think they should bring this to the 3DS, because the game plays really well if you had a 3D kind of perspective. But anyway, autofill, and I'll just show you how this works. So you see, you've got this kind of Space Invaders concept, but then you press a button and you're on the top of the screen now. And you want to pick up the, when you shoot the bad guys, they leave little gems on the opposite side, so you have to go and pick those up. I love the way the perspective changes on this game, and then there's even a super power mode if I collect enough of those gems. Let me just see if I can do that here. Oh, didn't get them. But yeah, this one really feels good with the controller. See if I can do that. There we go. There's the super mode. That's using the other button. So one to rotate the screen, or to flip, I don't know, lean the screen, I guess would be the right way to say it. And when you collect up enough gems, your super power meter is available. Let's see if we can get that guy. Oh, he got me. And the final game to show off is Ice Rage. Anybody who's a fan of Hat Trick on the old arcade machines will be very, very easy to recognize this game. You're moving the man on the ice and also the goalie, and the button allows you to fire the puck. As a Canadian, I just couldn't let a game reveal a game like this go by without at least mentioning it once. Ice Rage, really, really fun, and very, very good with the controller. Really, really like it. So there we go. There's the iCade Junior. I hope some of the pointers I gave you were helpful. Got a point. It's a great controller. You'd think it's too small to be really practical to use, but it's actually a heck of a lot of fun. With that little trick of using the back button, I think you'll find it actually is a valid controller itself. Too bad that it doesn't fit if you've got a case. But, and of course, there aren't that many games that support it. There are about 100, it says on the box. Quite enjoy them. But, yeah, it would be nice if there was a bit more support for it. Still, I think it's awesome, especially with a MAME game playing on it, or even the Atari collection, the Namco collection, you name it. It's a lot of fun using that kind of control scheme. Now, I'll see if I can just get a score to finish off the video with. That would be nice. Nope, not going to happen. All right, well, there we go. The iCade Junior. We'll see you down the rabbit hole.